Hey, housewives.
Hey.
Oh my gosh. Where was this episode like 6
10
years
I
ago?
was gonna say almost 10 years ago, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's 6.
I don't know that I would have 10 years ago if I would have been open
Oh,
to
yeah,
it.
you were still a child.
I was still a baby. I was still that immature of I'm still a liability. I've never been an asset or
That
marriage.
was a while ago? Just kidding.
No, it's actually
Still current.
if you look at the P&L statement of the Shire household, but Tori's on that
Which
loss.
is why we needed Heather on this not. Again,
Yes.
a very selfish, "Hey, we really like this guest. We like the book she wrote. We need to talk to her."
Yes. And again, it's not because it's there are times when you need the practical, do this
Yeah.
A, B, C things.
Mhm.
But if you don't know why or where it's coming from,
Yeah.
or you don't agree with it yet, the A, B, and C is not going to work.
Yeah.
So,
This book is very root issues of
yes.
your money and your relationship with the Holy Spirit and how you view your finances and your financial situation.
Yeah.
And she goes through each of the fruit of the spirit in here. And it's not the here's how you budget, here's how you do that. It's how you think about things because it is where your heart posture is.
Very much a
Um,
hard posture.
yeah. And it's so cool. As she shares, obviously, her personal experience, her and her husband, the conversation. So cool how God used their prayer and instantly answered it and just led them on a journey. And now she is writing this book.
And this book that Tracy keeps referencing
Oh,
to
yes.
is called Money and Spirit.
For those that aren't watching the
For
video.
those that are watching the video, and if you're not
Good
watching
for
the
you.
if you're not watching the video, I would like you to go to YouTube and Rumble and go subscribe to our channels because we are awesome. And also, and I'm totally throwing this completely out, but if you guys haven't liked and subscribed or written a review for the Unlikely Housewives, but you find value in our content and enjoy it, it really, really helps others find our show that are like you, that feel alone, and we want them to know that they're not alone. So if you have 2 minutes to write a review, more housewives can find us and find that community and find and know that they are loved and they are not alone in all this. So I do want to just throw that out there because the algorithm really does help
Yeah.
other people find our show and you can be a part of that. So without further ado, this is for the one who spends money.
Enjoy.
Hey, housewives.
Hey, welcome back. Oh, there's a little crack in the
I
voice
know
this
it is
morning.
because
It's
it's a
this
little chilly
fall. I
outside and
know.
fall and all the coziness. You just take another drink of your coffee,
I know,
girlfriend,
right?
and warm up those vocal cords. But we are so excited to have another phenomenal guest. You guys, like, we could not, like, our plan for this series, for this message was so, like, short. Can I say short? It was
Mhm.
supposed to be so short. And we were just like, oh, we're just going to have a couple. And then God has just prolonged this and has just been incredible on who he has brought forth and the messages that we get to talk about. So
Yeah.
without further ado, I'm going to have Tracy introduce our guest.
Okay. Today we have Heather Day with us. She is an author and ministry leader with more than 20 years of experience in the fields of marketing, communications, and nonprofit ministry. She's the director of marketing for Barnabas Foundation, where she provides marketing consultations and support for more than 200 Christian ministries. She's the author of Money and Spirit, Surrendering Our Finances to the Work of the Holy Spirit. And we have it right here. Yay.
Hey.
Welcome to the show, Heather.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
So when did this come out? This is fresh, right?
Yeah, it came out in January, but it's been a year of almost coming up on a year of rollout on it. It's been fun to see it get out into people's hands.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is not your average financial book. I mean, this is not your Dave Ramsey. This is something completely different. Can you give our listeners what makes it different and just the overview of it?
Well, so I'll start by saying it was not written by a financial expert in any way. I wrote this book just prompted to share my story and also just what I've seen in the lives of others about what it looks like to surrender our finances to the work of the Holy Spirit. How it's not about tactics, it's not about budgeting, saving, although all of that is certainly referenced in there. But this book is really taking a look at how does it change how we view and manage our money when we invite God to be part of it, and when we look at everything through the lens of love and peace and self-control and joy and all the fruits of the spirit. So it's yes, it is on about money, but money is really just a symptom of the underlying things that are going in our on our hearts. And so that's what this book is, coming from that perspective of how do we experience heart change, and then how we view and manage our money will follow.
That's amazing. But I know because we've previously talked to you, that came out of your own personal experience and some things that you and your husband, your family kind of
Mhm.
walked through. So tell us a little bit more about your backstory and actually how you got here.
Yeah, so my husband and I will have been married 25 years this summer. So
Yay,
yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you. Thank you. But we met when I was 18, he was 19. We were became really became adults together. And in our early marriage, I came into it with student debt, and then I got a credit card as a college student without any
Yep.
instructions on how to use
Yep.
it. So, I paid the minimum balance, all those kind of things. I made a lot of dumb decisions and things, not even major purchases, but just piled up over time. And so we had kind of this, Robert has always, you will fall into your roles that you carry. And he was always the one to pay the bills. And I was aware that we had some debt, but I didn't realize how much it was eating him at him. And there was a night where we were going out for a date, and it was one of those nights, I'm sure hopefully other people have experienced this, where he was just like nitpicking over everything. I'm like, what is your problem? Like I just feel like
Yes.
we're out for a night of fun and you're just like a killjoy. And so finally, like, I'm like, what's the deal? And he said, I just like the weight of our debt, the weight of our finances it's just overwhelming. And I feel like we are just one minor setback away from being destroyed. And I think I knew that we had some debt, but the weight of it had never hit me before that moment.
Did you change your reservation from the nice eat out
No,
restaurant? Like, okay, well, let's just go hit Taco Bell real quick. Like, just like,
no, because
I
we're
wanna
still making dumb decisions.
yeah.
So
Okay.
so so literally we pulled into this parking lot of Applebee's. We left our kids were little at that time, and I
Mhm.
was not gonna give up a night out. So, but we prayed in the parking lot of Applebee's, and I just prayed, God, like, I don't know what to do. We've made a mess. Like, we don't know how to fix it. Can you help us? And then we went on our merry way into the restaurant.
Very nice. There
But
you go.
once we got in there, I saw a friend of mine. He's a pastor. I've not seen him in a long time. And I'm like, what are you up to? And he said, oh, my wife and I just came from this financial workshop. And you wouldn't believe it. We used to fight about finances, and we used to be overwhelmed. And this changed everything.
Stop it.
No, my husband and I looked at each other, and like our jaws hit the floor. And I truly, like, I get chills thinking about it, because it was, to this day, I think, one of the fastest and most obvious answers to prayer. And it wasn't like we got a big check in the mail that solved everything. It wasn't like we had a get rich scheme or anything, but slowly over time, as we followed God's guidance, he brought people and resources to help us figure out like how to do things his way and how to recalibrate. And so slowly over time, we paid off all of our debt. We built up savings. We did all these things. It was a long, slog of a process, but it was just reframing how, like, I getting away from instant gratification and getting away from chasing things to fill a void, or getting away from giving beyond what we had, all the lessons of what was going on in our hearts that we had to fix to get back on the right track.
That's amazing. First of all, can we just give praise to your husband for his courage and being vulnerable and telling you that? Because that is something that, we've been married 20 years. We're still working on that. And I
Yeah.
know that's very common in marriages to not
Yeah.
want to burden the other spouse with the burden you're carrying.
Right.
So I think that's amazing that, he was able to share that and you were able to receive it.
Yeah.
So yes, praise to you as well, because I do think that that is where a lot of the, it's either sex or finances is the
Mhm.
arguments in a marriage for the most
Right.
part. And we become, and I know because I've been there before, just on the defensive about it. And it's like, well, if I knew, I would have been able to be, so it is got to be a little bit more gracious when they're
Mhm.
vulnerable and sharing, and to
Absolutely.
receive it. So good on the both of you.
Yeah, I absolutely, like, I just just cry thinking about it. Like, God put such different people together always.
Mhm.
And yet we needed each other in so many different ways. And part of the journey was learning to listen to each other and heed each
Yeah.
other's advice and speak into it. So he definitely, like, I learned so much from my husband in that time. And he learned from me. It was reciprocal.
Mhm.
So for example, one of the things that he talks about as being transformational to the change is part of the issue was I grew up in a Christian household where everything always worked out. And I'm like, just it'll work out. And he came from a household that was not like that. And they just lived, just not knowing sometimes where the next meal was coming from, and things did not
Mhm.
come easily for him. So I had grown up learning to tithe, and that was just a part of my everyday, like, that's just what we are taught from a very young age. He was not. So when we first started talking about that in our marriage, that sounded crazy to him, bonkers,
Mhm.
like, how in the world could we do that when we're barely scraping by? So after that prayer, and I had trusted that, okay, that's God's to work on with him. I'm going to just
Mhm.
Yeah.
I have to put this in God's hands. So after we said that prayer, like, one of the very early decisions that we made, and it was him that made it, is we're going to start by giving to God first, and then trust that God will work out the difference. And yes, it was a money decision, but that was a huge leap of faith decision for him,
Yeah.
trusting in God's provision. And he talks openly about that with his friends now, about how that made all the difference, because not it wasn't we didn't give so he get back, but saw that what God asks us to do, God will provide. We've seen that over and over again, and he credits that decision to give to God first is what ultimately turned things around.
It's amazing because, I mean, we've been there many times,
Yeah.
and I love that it's the obvious sometimes that is the hardest to accept. Is that not weird? And I mean, I think she talks about obedience all the time and just the, like, awareness of it. And I mean, with moving, we just moved and it was the same thing in which house, like we were praying over it and it was back and forth in these different homes. And I'm like, it was the obvious. And you're like, I mean, I was crying outside the house, like, "Why? Like, is this Holy Spirit driven?" But it's obvious, but then it's like, you still question it, you
Mhm.
know?
Oh,
Um, so I do love that you were able to, like, have that conversation, and he still credits that.
yeah, yeah. And it's a continual journey, like, I don't wanna pretend like that we now have our firstborn in college, so we have a whole new set of struggles. So we have all those things to work out, and I have to over and over again continue to surrender to the Holy Spirit,
Yeah.
because it's real easy to slip back into those old patterns of we have to have this or we need to do this, and
Mhm.
I just have to keep going back to, like, why am I making this decision? What void is it in my life that I'm trying to fill? And usually that void is something that only God can fill. The peace, the peace, the love, the joy, like, those are things that God is meant to provide in our life, not the stuff that we manage for him.
Mhm.
Yeah. No, and it's being good stewards of
Mhm.
what we've been given, and those that are good stewards of a little will be given a lot, and money is just a tool.
Right.
It money is not happiness, but money is certainly a tool,
Mhm.
and it provides choices, and it gives you the opportunity to make good choices and bad choices.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
And we are something we talk about a lot is the county that we live in here in Kansas is one of the most affluent counties. It is the most affluent county in Kansas, and it's almost always keeping up with the Joneses.
Yep.
Who's got the Lululemon pants and the Uggs and the wearing the certain shirts and brands and all the
Mhm.
things, and it's like, how okay, like you're trying to teach your kids that it's not the stuff,
Mhm.
and as parents that can give your children these things too. Like it's a delicate balance because you're like,
Mhm.
we have the affordability to get nicer and
Right.
and then you're like, also like, this is not, do not expect this. But like, it's just a hard lesson to teach your
Mhm.
kids,
Oh my goodness,
especially
yeah.
when like any I mean, how have your kids obviously your college student saw
Mhm.
probably more of a transformation because they were older in the process.
Mhm.
But have your kids kind of adopted ways that you've done this and seen the changes and made
Yeah,
changes?
so they were both relatively young when this all happened, so she probably doesn't remember the before, but I had somebody say to me one time, I just again in God providing different people around me. I was interviewing an older couple for a donor story for work, and he was telling me about how from the time that they were little, they had their kids set aside 10% for tithe and then 50% for spending and 40% for savings. And I'm like, well, what's that look like? What's a 7-year-old saving for? But it was, but
Yeah.
it was just that discipline of setting aside something for whether it was a big toy they wanted or whatever. So we taught our kids that. I set up this app on my phone to keep track of what they had available. And so they followed that pattern. Again, we have to keep recalibrating. But
Yes.
my daughter was saying that, she's now in a serious relationship and she was explaining this concept to her boyfriend. And so it's just cool to see that has taken root. And it was something that again, I picked up a tip from somebody else. And now hopefully that will change her trajectory so that she's not goes down all the same paths that we did. But parenting, oh my goodness, like I could go into a whole different, like, because it's one thing to figure out like being okay with, I don't have to keep up with the Joneses, but I want my kids to keep up with Joneses kids. I don't want them to feel
You go right ahead and lean into that on your wisdom there, because we'll welcome it.
Yes. Uh-huh.
well, I don't want my kids to feel like the outcast. I don't want my
Yeah.
kids to feel lonely. I don't want my kids to feel bored. You name it. One thing as a parent that I have to work on is that they have to go through the struggle too, that they have to understand that it is okay to not have all the things that we want, that we can be content with what we have. And so, like you said, even if I have the resources to get something for them, does that mean I should when there's something to learn about waiting and saving for it, or making the choice between, okay, I can't afford to do both of those activities, so I got to choose one,
Yeah.
But these are hard because I want them to live fulfilling lives. I want them to not be in therapy someday telling me about all the things
Oh,
that I see in
okay.
Yeah, no,
I already expected my children to be in therapy. We joke that we have, when the girls were born, we saved for 1 degree, 1 wedding, and then all the therapy you can afford. So if you
Oh, yeah.
go to community college and just get a couple things done, girl, you can get a real nice wedding and tons of therapy. Like
Right.
that.
And they're going to be in therapy. It's just which topic are they going to bring up?
Yes,
Mhm.
exactly.
Yeah.
I know that I am going to be a
Yeah.
topic of conversation. You'll never believe what my mother did.
Oh, I am certain. I would say too, like, it's about money, but it's also about the spirit, obviously the Holy Spirit, but also like our desire to please, God. And it's hard to teach that to the kids, because they're parent pleasers, because they don't want your parents mad at you, like, and so it is hard to have that conversation with them. But I would say the one thing that we are still working on, we are far from perfect, but we say no, like, no, some people can't say no. No, you got to say no. Like there are things that are privileges and there are things that, it's a gift. It's not expected and it's not that every day, and our kids are surrounded by friends who get whatever they want,
Yeah.
whenever they want.
Yeah.
And for me to say no, they think I am the meanest person in the world.
Well, you
And
are, Tracy.
I know.
You are the meanest person.
Just
I can
totally.
feel it.
It's
I'm
just
such a grump.
True. I totally agree, Stein children. She's the worst.
But it is it's just discipline, like it's just general discipline to be told no and to not receive something. And their hearts kind of need that. I mean, or not kind of, their hearts need that lesson
right.
because they're going to have to do it to themselves as they get older. Like you have to tell yourself no, like, oh, should I go out tonight or study? I mean, depends on what age bracket, you're going to change that
Yeah.
philosophy when you get older. But, it is something that they have to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
Mm.
And that's why I come back to yes, the book is about money, but all of these are just symptoms of it's spiritual. It's really like how the surrender is all about inviting God to examine our hearts, examine our souls, examine our minds, and just what is there in me that's not like you? Help me to be more like you, and help me. Boy, if you pray that prayer, be ready because he will reveal it. It's
Mhm.
not a fun process, but that's what we need to be refined and to become more like him, because not just because we should, but because that's the more satisfying life. That's where we
Yeah.
find fulfillment.
It's a heart posture. It's the, you can say things all day long, but it's like you said, it's why am I spending money on something? What void in my life am I trying to fulfill in this? Or what am I trying to prevent my kids from experiencing feeling, because we want them to, like you said, not be the outcast and not be isolated, not feel alone and not be bullied because gosh, well, they just don't have the right sneakers on,
Right.
like those kinds of things. You want to protect them from that. But then at the
Mhm.
same time, I mean, I remember that as a kid and that made me part of like who I like. It's okay that I don't have what you have, like that was a
Right.
growth process for me. Like I'm good at with who I am. I don't really like those shoes anyways. So I don't want to wear them, like those were growth moments too.
Right. And then
So
on the flip side of it, obviously, like my perspective has been a lot of like trying to rein it in and self control and all that stuff. But I've also had, interestingly enough, I've had people come to me that God has spoken to them through reading it about how they were gripping too tightly. They were hoarding or say, like this whole idea of I have to protect myself at all costs. I never want to be caught without having resources. And the thing is, like, we should be smart, we should save, we should like invest in retirement, all those sorts of things. But at the same time, like you can never have enough in your bank account to protect everything that could possibly happen. At
Right.
some point, you have to trust that God is the provider and that God will take care of you. And we have to
Mhm.
be willing to let go when we see somebody in need that God is putting on our hearts to give. So, greed is an issue, but selfishness is an issue, but also just being open-handed and being willing to use our money however God calls us to use that, whether it's to get ourselves back under control or whether it's to give more freely. Every person, it's very individualized to what does God have to say to you.
now, in that moment of Applebee's when you started, were you at that time, your kids were younger, were you at the time a two-income household?
Yes, yes, we were.
Okay. Okay. So I'm curious the difference because, like, on a weekly basis, you're contributing to the like, there is
Yep.
that level of like, I'm bringing a paycheck home too.
Yeah,
So, it's not, and then versus the single income, like, I know the weight of like the finances. My husband's like,
Mhm.
we're a single income household. Like, if something happens, guess what?
right.
The water turns off, like you're like, oh my gosh. And I think that's like that I sometimes will just, I forget.
Yeah.
You
Right,
just like, it's not what you're like, I'm not thinking because I'm like, it's not the role. Like, I pay the bills. That's just
right.
for track's sake. But I mean, so I know what money we have, but
Yeah,
it's of like, if the weight and the pressure of him thinking, well, there's got to be the mortgage, there's got to be the car payment, there's got to be the utilities, there's
right.
like, what is the minimum breakdown of how much needs to happen per month,
Yeah.
to keep our house afloat? And there's that immense pressure.
Yeah,
And
that's a lot of weight for those that are carrying that, like that's something that we can be in prayer for our husbands or our spouses. There's just a lot of weight that comes with it, whether it's a single income or a double house, like we've had to from the beginning. And again, we became adults together, so this was very natural for us. But I know people that marry a little older, it can be a struggle to merge those two together and to see like
Mhm.
this is not my money or your money. This is our money that God has called
Yeah.
us to use together. And that's where that whole listening to each other and valuing each other and all of it is there's just there's like you said, there's a lot to discuss, unpack there in a marriage about how does God work through our finances and how does he make us one in that what regardless of who's making the money. Yeah, it's just adds a lot of complexity to it.
Yeah.
it's one of those conversations that they always suggest with premarital counseling,
Yeah.
go and do that and talk about
Mhm.
the things that you don't think you're going to talk about and be like, oh, money, that's not a big deal. Like we don't think about it, but it was like I brought a lot of debt to our marriage with student
Yeah.
loans and with just credit card.
Mhm.
And then, but I didn't realize at the time I was becoming an adult. I met my husband when I was 18 and
Yeah.
he was 27.
Okay.
So he was already in the adult
He was
world.
adulting before.
He was adulting before I was. So, but like, and I didn't realize until years into our marriage how much mental weight debt put on him.
Mhm.
And so it's fascinating. And to this day, I mean, even we were fortunate enough to be able to refinance our house when the interest rates were
Mhm.
much lower, 1.75. And
Rub it in.
yes, I am.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. No, that is the only reason why we cannot move.
Mhm.
But no, but like, and it's hard for him because he struggles with, he's like, we could pay off the house, but why? Like,
Mhm.
it's making, and so even that, like, or the car payment that's at 0.9 interest, and he's like, I could pay off the car because I don't want to have that debt out there, but I'm
Right.
making 4% when I keep the money in the bank account on my savings.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you're like, it's this, I don't want to have somebody's control over, be it
Right.
somebody's, yeah. It's so fascinating the amount of weight that the
Mhm.
finances play in
Mhm.
a relationship. And it's not discussed or talked about until usually
It's an issue.
it's an issue. Yeah.
Mhm.
Right. Right.
Well, and speaking of discussion, I was actually I was looking at the book that you have discussion questions
Mhm.
per chapter. So is this set up that you could do as a study, you could do as marriage, you could do just on your own? How is it that you designed it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's best done with at least another person, if not in a small group. I think it can be used as something you do with your spouse. It could be something with a friend, a small group, or a book club. The idea is that, I think that not just with money, but a lot of things, we tend to keep our struggles private. And
Mhm.
and there is a lot of power in opening up and being vulnerable enough to say, this is what I'm struggling with, and hearing what they're struggling with. And hey, let's figure this out together. So, one of my goals in writing this was it's really hard to talk about money with other people. Like, we just don't even know where to begin. So, this makes the conversation a little easier to just dive in and hey, let's talk about this. And I know some stuff, you know some stuff, let's figure it out together. I did this with a small group at my church. And, here I was like, I had written the book and yet like I was learning so much from the other people in my group because they had different life experiences that were encouraging to me and vice versa. So
Yeah.
the book is written so that there's a chapter to read, stories of other people, and then reflection questions at the end of each chapter that you could do personally and journal or pray through, but then also discussion groups that you could use for again your small group or with your husband or however you want to do that.
That's awesome. Well, and you're right. It is hard to have those discussions because you never want to offend anybody or make them feel uncomfortable. But whether it's a lot or a little, it
Yes.
still carries a weight
Right.
in your relationship or in your own personal, beliefs and
Right.
in marriage or, you know, even friendships. We talk about it a little, but like only when, just like when you
Yeah.
had said, it only comes up when it's hard,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is okay, but, like, we wanna be able to be a little bit more fluid in conversation about it, you know?
Yeah, it's not like, "Here, we're gonna do this book study and let's exchange W-2s." I mean,
Right.
it's not,
Right.
like,
I mean,
I'm gonna bring a copy of my bank statement, you bring a copy of yours,
Right.
where we're at. Credit scores are also appreciated, like,
Right.
this whole little, like, but it is, I mean, you can still, whether you have a lot or a little, the feeling
Right.
is still the same,
yeah.
or
Yeah.
whether you're still trying to fill the void or you're still trying to you're creating a false sense of security with
Mhm.
the number that's in the bank account
Yeah.
Yeah.
or what you're trying to do with it. And the feelings are very much the same. It doesn't matter
Mhm.
Yeah.
what the amount is.
Exactly. Yeah. There's no questions in there that's going to ask how much do you make or what's on your credit card.
Yeah, like start to average 10% of, yeah, and doing this. Yeah, no.
But it's really framed and again around the fruit of the spirit. So, like for example, in the section on self control, like talking about what are the scenarios that you find yourself in where where you tend to the boundary you need to draw clear boundaries because you're more likely to cross them. So those
Like
kind of
having Amazon on the
yes.
tone of my phone.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Or letting my husband go to the grocery store when he's hungry.
Yes. Yes.
Or at all. Your husband
I
eats with too much
know.
sugar.
I know.
It's not the money he spends, it's the bad food he brings.
I know it's true.
Listen, I've learned that, like, I do online grocery shopping and I pick it up, and I know that there's a surcharge, but whatever that surcharge is less than me taking the kids into the store.
Oh my
100%.
gosh.
We just took our entire family of 6 to Walmart
Oh,
Yeah.
on
Oh
Sunday
my
night.
God.
And
that
halfway
sounds
through, we are halfway
miserable.
through, and my husband says, he goes, honey, remember why we don't do this anymore?
Yes.
Because I will tell you,
Right.
they are all their own people. They all want, like, for example, mouthwash. I
Right.
was getting mouthwash. They all wanted a mouthwash. I'm like, why? I mean, yes, I get why, but it was just
No,
like,
like I
if
want
we were
this
not all at the,
mouthwash.
yes, and
I
if we
want
were not all at the store and down that aisle together, that would never have happened.
Oh my
yes.
God.
But
And they have an opinion from Instagram about which mouthwash is going to be the best.
oh, 100%. I mean, it's this is the trendy, this skincare, and this
Oh
is
my
what's on TikTok
God.
for my hair powder. And oh my goodness.
I
Yeah,
the-
I control that a little, but it's, yeah, no, the Walmart thing was hilarious because we did move and I was like, okay, they keep coming home and I was like, let's go buy the snacks you will eat. It is what
Right.
we were buying tonight. Like, I didn't care if it was healthy or not. I was just like, I need stuff in the house so that when they come home, they're not grumpy and whining and all the things. I'm like,
Mhm.
just get this breakfast bar or this protein bar, just get all the things. So we left and we're all at the cash register and playing the game of what's the total going to be and
Oh yeah.
all the things. And we left and Chris and I looked at each other and I was like, yep, I think we're good for another 6 months. Like, we're not doing this again.
Yeah, you're like
You'll like this, but I took my
It's
son.
like, it's the flip side though. If you don't go and teach them and experience that, then I mean, seriously, every time we go, it's a freaking mess. I'm like,
Right.
do we
That's
go more
true.
often and create healthy behaviors when we go to the store together?
right.
We used to, but then they got older.
Right,
And then I was
and-
like, I can't handle that. Mom, can I get this? Can I get it? I mean, they never used to be that way.
No.
I took my son a couple of weeks ago. He would kill me if I said I shared this story. But he won't listen.
Nobody listens to this podcast.
listens.
It's fine. No one can tell.
But I took him and I said, you pick again, because he's been a picky eater. And so I'm like,
Mhm.
pick out the snacks you're actually going to eat. So he's on this avocado toast kick. And he was trying to figure out the most efficient way to make it. So we're looking at the bread aisle. He's looking at all these and he goes, is there such a thing as pre-toasted toast? I'm like, I believe what the word you're looking for is bread.
That's amazing.
I'm like, you are 13 years old. You could spend the extra 30 seconds to toast the toast.
Yes.
I like that
Oh.
he's looking at the efficiency. Let's
That
speed
is-
this process up.
That is why my kids don't eat though. Like, I mean, they don't want to take the time to fix anything or do anything.
Oh,
They
yeah.
just need
Mhm.
instant gratification in even their food.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mm.
absolutely.
I love my children.
Thank you.
Children, they said it'll be fun. They lied. They lied. No, we love our children. They're just different seasons for things.
Yes,
Instacart is a beautiful thing.
it is.
And you can, for those that have not enjoyed the beautifulness of Instacart, I want you to know you can take pictures of the produce because I know what's holding you back.
Yeah.
You can take pictures of the produce if it's not what the quality that you would have selected, and they will send you a credit on your account so you can get
Yep.
another thing of produce. So go do the Instacart, do the Walmart pickup thing because you very much can return the stuff that if you do not like with the selection that they've picked out, or if they've picked, you can make substitutions. Like
Right.
there
You
is,
don't have to sit in bondage anymore. Order it.
yes, exactly.
It is true. And I've been doing it for years. I've been doing it for,
Yeah,
gosh,
I know you have.
11, 12 years in Chicago. And then when we moved to Kansas, that they didn't have Instacart for a year. And that year was like the longest year of my life having to go to the grocery store. And then Instacart came to Kansas and then I was happy again. But the point
It's
is,
the little things that are happy.
it really is. But I also have less waste. And I know people do not understand. They say that, oh, I can't pick out my produce. And some people enjoy it. That's fine. If there's joy in that, kind of go to the grocery store. But if you don't have joy in it like me, this is for real, because I will say it saves you money in the long run because you're not just randomly grabbing things,
Right.
and you also don't waste as much. And because I can do it every 2-3 days.
Right.
$35 is my minimum order that I have to have. So I can get what I need just for the day or for dinner or whatever. And I'm not wasting stuff. So
And I'm getting that time back too. You know. So yeah. I'm a
Yes,
big
for sure.
proponent of that. But
Yeah.
like you said, bringing it back to the budgeting thing, like you said, you can see how much you've spent, and I can see, oh, I've gone over my amount, and I can see, okay, which things do I really need? So
Yeah.
it's helpful.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's less of the impulse buy. The store is strategically set up for you to buy things as closer as you're like, "Oh, that one other thing," or, "Let me just grab an energy drink," or, I'm hungry now, let me just grab this candy bar. I don't have any mints or gum in the
Uh-huh.
car." And you just start grabbing it and you don't even realize it. And before you know it, you've added an extra $6 or, while you're in the Target shopping, you're like, "Well, let me just get a coffee and I'm just gonna browse," and, but that all like you said, the surcharge, the delivery tip, like those things do. But if you break that out over
Mhm.
how many grocery trips and how many hours, and then you going, I know that this is saving me money and the impulse buy
Right.
of when I go to the store,
Yeah.
it's totally worth it.
Mm-hmm.
This episode is not sponsored by Instacart. I got to say that. We would love to be.
Yeah, right.
We're open to it. If anyone hears this, and we'll be more than happy to, but it is apparently not. So just thought I'd throw that out there.
Aw.
But well, we just want to just say thank you so much, Heather, and Tracy said I should say it all the time, but being obedient,
Mhm.
coming up and going, I'm going to write a book about self-control, the fruit of the spirits with money and finances, and not being a finance. I am sure that there was a ton of imposter syndrome where you were like, I'm
Absolutely.
not an author. How do I tell people to do this when I'm not even doing it correct? Because you know what I mean? Like, I am sure that the
Yeah.
enemy had those doubts and negative thoughts in your mind. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being obedient, and thank you for listening and leaning into God and going, you know what? I have got you. I will equip you for this. And for praying in the Applebee's parking lot.
Yeah.
No, like that in itself to me is encouraging that God can just go, okay, I'll show you.
Yeah.
And 30 seconds later, it's
Yeah.
just like, he's so cool.
Yeah.
So
God is good.
thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, where can people find you, follow you, and get your book?
Yeah, so you can find my book for sale online anywhere where you buy your things, but you can connect with me at heatherday.net. All my socials are linked on there. I'd love to connect with you. And then Barnabas Foundation, a great organization I work for, you can find them at barnabasfoundation.org.
Awesome.
Awesome. Well, and we'll have all those links for you guys in the show notes too, Housewives. So thank you again. And until next time, Housewives.